Hello and welcome. I'm a hotel AI expert with extensive experience in modern hospitality operations and performance support. I am so pleased to welcome all of you, the students of Europe Hotel School, to your online learning journey. In this session, we're going to dive into one of the most critical make or break periods for any new restaurant or bar, the first 90 days. It's a time filled with incredible opportunity, but also some very hidden dangers. So let's break down exactly how to master it. Anyone who's launched a new F&B outlet knows that incredible rush of the grand opening. It's an all-out sprint of last-minute prep, intense marketing, and, if you're lucky, a huge initial buzz. But here's the thing. That buzz, it's temporary. The real work, the sustained effort of building a profitable, long-lasting business, that begins the day after the party ends. That's the marathon. And that period right after opening is absolutely critical. See, during the launch, you're basically a project manager. Your entire world is about checklists, vendors, and getting everything just right for day one. But the second those doors open, your role has to shift, and it has to shift dramatically. You're not just managing a project anymore, you're leading a performance. And your most important tool is no longer a checklist, it's data. So in these first 90 days, your goal is really twofold. First, you've got to stabilize the whole operation, smoothing out all the little bumps and wrinkles that always pop up. And second, you have to convert that initial excitement into actual sustainable profit. This isn't just about surviving the opening weeks. It's about building a rock-solid foundation for long-term success. And you do that with a relentless focus on data-driven improvement. Okay, so how do you actually measure and manage all of this performance? Well, you need the right tools. And in this context, that means key performance indicators, or KPIs. I want you to think of these as the instruments on your dashboard, telling you exactly how every part of your business is running. They are the absolute foundation of this new leadership phase. So let's be crystal clear on what a KPI actually is. It's simply a measurable value that demonstrates how effectively you're hitting your key business objectives. It's not a vague feeling, it's not a guess, it's a hard number that tells a very specific story about one part of your operation. Now, to get a complete picture of your outlet's health, you can't just look at one thing. We focus on three core pillars. I like to think of it as a three-legged stool. If any one of those legs is weak, the whole thing is wobbly and unstable. So we need to measure our financials, our guest happiness, and our internal efficiency. Together, they give you that holistic view. So let's start with the money. What's amazing is how quickly these four financial metrics can tell a story. You've got RevPASH, which tells you how productive your physical space is. Then there's the average check, or what each customer is spending. And then you have your two biggest expenses, your cost of goods sold, basically your food and drink costs, and your labor percentage. Just those four numbers give you an instant snapshot of your profitability. Of course, none of those financial numbers matter if your guests aren't happy, so you're going to track hard numbers like guest satisfaction scores. But you also have to dive deep into the qualitative feedback. This means, as a leader, you must read every single online review, every comment. That's where you find the gold, the specific, actionable insights about the service gaps you need to fix right now. And finally, we look under the hood at our internal operations. How efficiently are we using our inventory? Are the staff making a lot of errors at the point of sale? A high void or comp percentage isn't just about lost revenue. It's a massive red flag. It might be pointing directly to a need for more staff training or maybe even tighter internal controls. Having all these KPIs is great, but they're pretty useless if they're just hidden away in a spreadsheet on your laptop. The key is to make this data visible, to make it accessible. And that's where the idea of a centralized, data-driven dashboard comes into play. It's your single source of truth for the entire management team. This kind of transparency creates a huge cultural shift. When performance data is shared openly, hitting the numbers is no longer just the general manager's problem. It becomes everyone's problem. The bar manager, the executive chef, the floor supervisor, they all see the same numbers and become collectively responsible for hitting the same targets. It builds this incredibly powerful sense of shared ownership. So here's what that might look like in the real world. You glance at the dashboard. Guest satisfaction, 93%. Great, we're on track. But then you see cost of goods sold is at 30%, and our target was 28%. That investigate status is an immediate, non-emotional trigger. It just tells you to start asking questions. Are our portion sizes correct? Is there waste in the kitchen? How are our receiving procedures? It points you directly to a potential problem area. And that investigate tag leads us to our next crucial point, benchmarking.
See, data without context is just noise. To make it meaningful, you have to compare it against something. And during these first 90 days, your most important benchmark is the internal target you set in your pre-opening budget. Any deviation from that plan, whether it's good or bad, demands analysis.
So let's take that labor cost from our dashboard example. The report shows we're running 5% under our budgeted labor costs. Now, on the surface, this looks like fantastic news, right? We're saving money. Time to celebrate. But hang on, this is exactly where a true performance leader stops and thinks critically. Is spending less money always a good thing? Is this really a reason to celebrate, or should it also be a reason to investigate? The critical point to understand here is that there is almost always a hidden trade-off. Yes, the good news is you have lower costs, but what's the potential bad news? Well, it could be a sign that you're understaffed, and what does understaffing lead to? It leads to stressed employees, slow service, and ultimately a drop in your guests' satisfaction. Saving 5% on labor is not a win if it costs you 10% of your repeat customers down the line. But, insight is useless without action. Seeing the problem is one thing, but actually doing something about it is everything. So you have to create a disciplined process, what I call a rhythm of review, to turn these numbers into real, tangible improvements. And this is what that rhythm looks like in practice. It's a structured, predictable cadence, a quick huddle every morning to review the top-line numbers from yesterday, a deeper dive every single week to analyze any variances, just like that labor cost example, and then a strategic review once a month to look at the bigger picture trends. This is the disciplined process that drives constant, continuous improvement. Ultimately, it all comes down to this. In a modern restaurant or bar, gut feelings are still important, but they have to be backed up by data. Mastering this analytical approach, it isn't optional anymore. It's the core skill that turns a buzzy grand opening into a business that truly lasts. Your ability to speak the language of data will absolutely define your success.